Well, good evening, everybody. It is Friday, and we have reached the last show, I believe, the third installment. I may be getting my math wrong today. It's been one of those days of this focus on understanding task management. And we have a true treat tonight. It's going to be a little laid back, a little casual. You may see me doing some things that you didn't expect to see me doing, but it'll be all good. We have a special guest with us tonight as we talk about details matter, how to write task. And the guest we have he's no stranger to us. He is the person that I call a friend, definitely a partner, and he is someone that I rely on and someone that our community can call on at any time. I want you all to welcome to the show none other than Walter Strong from Walter Strong, the Huddle with Walter Strong, who that shares airs. I can't talk now. Airs on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Walter, welcome to the show this evening, and we'll get there.
Good evening, and thank you so much for this spontaneous invitation. I'm glad I was able to answer the call to be able to add value, and I'm hoping I can be able to do my very best to be able to add value to the audience this evening. So grateful to be here one more time.
Great. Well, I already know that you will because you always add value. And we're talking about a topic tonight that uh, our both of our communities need assistance
Mhm.
with.
Mhm.
I know I still need assistance with it, and that is really about writing tasks so that we can just execute. We
Mhm.
get rid of the decision fatigue surrounding getting a task done or accomplishing a goal. We get rid of not being motivated to move forward because we don't have something we need or there's an impediment. We just move
Mhm.
all of that out of the way by knowing how to manage writing tasks very detailed and covering the things that we need to have in place so we can just simply execute and move forward. So I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to this casual conversation with you this evening, and we're going to hop in real quick and see who's out there with us because I see some folks joining us this evening. And I'm going to first say hello to this gentleman. B. Dagan, glad to have you here listening in. But, if you got something you want to ask, please feel free to go ahead and ask a question this evening. And of course, we have our moderator with us, Frank Jackson. Frank, glad to have you in the building with us again. And the man who always reminds me, happy Friday, Live Tribe. Yes, the emotional CEO is in the building with us this evening. So glad to have you all here. And we'll have some fun together tonight. We're gonna have fun. What I'm gonna encourage you to do while you're thinking and listening, put your questions in chat. Get your questions ready about writing tasks, being effective, what you need to do, because that's what we're gonna dig into. And so, Walter, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you have any area where you believe from your own experience someone in your community is struggling with getting tasks written in a way that they can execute, or they're still writing them too broad and they're getting stuck? Have you had any of your community kind of share that story with you or anyone?
Not so much within the community, but I know of a real good person that I've been knowing for over close to 55 years myself. I have definitely struggled with that myself. As I was just sharing with you as we were getting ready to go on the air, um, for the last few months and last this past year, I've been saying I need to get back into doing short form videos, primarily anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, because that to me it appears to be that's the bedrock of YouTube videos, where people watch your videos, they comment, they engage in them, and you see more of people from a replay standpoint. But the challenge sometimes is if you don't have certain skills on like being able to edit or being able to have someone to do the editing for you, live streaming becomes almost like the default thing to do and create content because you're like, hey, I don't have to do any editing. I'm doing engaging. And you just kind of build your channel around just strictly live streaming. But you know, you need that other component, such as short form videos. And I would just keep saying, okay, I need to do this, but I would never write the task down. Or as you were saying, the tasks are written out and they're just too broad. And so I have really struggled with that. And then just this past week, I just said, okay, I'm going to write this thing out step by step, what it takes to do a short form video to 3 to 5 minutes. Now, I know this, I've done it, but the simple fact that I made myself write it out step by step gave me a clearer picture on this can be done despite the challenges that I'm dealing with at this moment to accomplish that.
Well, you already gave the community the first tip
Mm-hmm.
in your response to that. And the first tip in journey to do this is setting very clear objectives.
Okay.
You've got to know what your goal is and what you want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
That starts everything. So you're in your case, you described being able to put out short form content or short form videos on a more consistent basis. And there's a process to it. But in that process, there are individual tasks. So you've set your objective. So the first tip I would encourage the community, anyone watching, is be very realistic about what your objectives are, and know what they are. Write them down in your weekly planning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talked a couple of weeks ago about identifying your big rocks, right? So in Walter's case, if your big rock is to get 2, 3, however many number short form videos published every week, then those are very clear, definitive objectives that you've set, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you answered it, and I didn't even put the first tip up there, but you gave us the answer. That is so amazing to me.
Well,
So
great.
I'm gonna show some examples of things that I've done, and I'll say to the community, you may not be able to see these because these are printouts from Google Task, but I'll talk to them and explain to you the reason I'm sharing them, and show you an example of what we're talking about here. Our second tip, after we've set objectives, is to use physical steps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very specific, concrete, physical steps to take.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just use your suggestion or your goal of creating the short form content.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to say there were a few physical steps along the way that you needed to take, what would you say they were?
So the first two steps that I have taken in being able to accomplish the big rocks for the short form content creation is for the month of June, have 4 videos completed, so one can be released every week. So those are the big rocks for the month of June. And so the first step was, okay, let's sit down, let's come up with the content ideas and the topics for the videos. I went into Canva. Canva has 2 AI tools, similar to tools like ChatGPT and Bart. They have some similar tools like that within Canva. One is called Magic Write, where you can take a Canva doc, which is equivalent to a Google Doc or a Word doc. You can type it in and say, give me 20 suggested tips for content creation beginners. And boom, it gives me all my ideas. And then I take it the next step and say, give me 20 suggested topics, ideal titles or topics. It spits everything out, and then I kind of review that. Once I've kind of determined out of those 20 which are the 4 videos that I want to pull from, my next step then is to look at creating the thumbnails, looking at my current thumbnails of how they're done, looking at how they've performed or have underperformed. I said, okay, we're going to approach this different. We're going to make these thumbnails different from the normal way because I need something to make the algorithm say there's something different about the normal type of content that this channel puts out. Let's get this in front of them. So started creating some thumbnails using some complete different pictures than or photos that I normally I use for my live stream. So they're completely different photos. They have more color to them. One has some blue, some red. And so the first 2 steps was the content idea and topics. The creation of the thumbnails was the second step. And I had it all written out. And when I finished by the end of this week, it was like, okay, I have taken 2 steps that have made me get much closer to creating these 4 videos for the month of June, completely recorded, completely edited, uploaded, optimized, and ready to be published.
Okay. So I'm gonna take one of and I'm gonna come back to this. And I wrote down one step, and I'm gonna share with you the way I would have written it.
Okay.
And I would have written research video ideas for June to come up with 4 topics. Just the research is really key. That word is and the being very specific about you want 4 ideas. You're not saying you're just going to look for 4. You're saying you're going to do the research to cull it down to 4.
Yes.
So, very specific, and research is a very specific type of activity that you execute. So, I'm going to share this, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to read it. I may not even be able to read it now that I put it on here. But this is an example of what I did when I was just kind of brainstorming. I took some of the things that I needed to do, and I just dumped them into what's called an inbox. This could be on a piece of paper. It could in this case, this is a PDF of what I put in the Google task list. Compile a list of donors who have previously sponsored the annual conference. This was if I was working on an event that I needed to get donors for. Conduct research for a list of 10 sources for changes to Google that Google is making with Bard AI. So very specific. Write a 10-minute presentation for the upcoming media team meeting. I have a meeting. I want to write this presentation. Groceries. This is one that's not specific, right? So groceries. Well, what about the groceries? Am I putting them away? Am I throwing them out the window? Am I making a grocery list? Am I going to the grocery store? Am I ordering groceries online? So oftentimes people will write groceries, but they don't say specifically what it is, the very physical thing they have to do regarding the groceries.
Okay. Understand.
Okay. Another one I have here, team meeting agenda. I didn't say what I needed to do about it. So here I am. When I look at this, my brain is like, got to make a decision. It just can't go. There's nothing physical. The one at the bottom, review Google account settings. I know I got to go into Google. I got to go to the account settings, and I'm going to look at those settings. Very specific, very clear, and definitive. So it's breaking down those things into very small, achievable. You don't have to do anything else to get them. Now, when I said know your goal, this one about writing a 10-minute presentation, that very clearly tells me my goal is to get this presentation finished.
Okay.
Then I've got some notes underneath it. I want a list of 3 goals for the media team. Assign each team member 1 goal to achieve. Set the due dates. Set the progress check-in dates. So I get into the task, and I can say, okay, when I'm writing the presentation, those are things I want to make sure, that's information I want to make sure I cover in the presentation. I don't have to be sitting there trying to think, what do I want to cover in this? I write it in the task. And so being very specific about the physical thing to do is key. to the process. So I just wanted to share that. Any thoughts? And did this share anything with you that you would find helpful, or did I share anything with you that you would find helpful in this?
Oh, it's definitely helpful, and it causes me to then to think when you're looking to accomplish a particular content creation project, whether if it's a video, whether if it's creating, thumbnails, or if you're looking to just working on overall strategy for over just putting a strategy together for the year, the lack of, of specifics on how you're going to do it, it sounds like when you don't have those specific details, when you start to encounter friction, I don't want to say something or life gets in the way and makes you stop, but when you encounter friction, it sounds like the lack of the specifics play a part in how the friction can kind of overtake your momentum, and then next thing you know, you end up stopping and you don't accomplish what you need to accomplish. It sounds like what I'm taking from what you're saying.
And yeah, and we all have it, right? There's parts of my life, my system, my life, where I'm encountering some of the very same things, and some of it I don't want to deal with stuff, and I know I need to, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm not being specific about it because it's my way of avoiding it. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to be real. Know, okay, this is an avoidance tactic that I'm using, and I have to break it down, and I have to deal with it because it's necessary. But
Okay.
that step of being specific, and when I say physical steps to take,
Mm-hmm.
that is something you can actually do, not something you think about. If it's
Mm-hmm.
right, if it's edit, if it's walk, if it's whatever it is, something actually physical that you can do. One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I find in this happens a lot in meetings. Can you reach out to Joe about, or can you get Bob to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, getting Bob to do is not a physical thing. That's a goal.
Okay.
Reaching out to Joe is not a physical thing. Me
Mm-hmm.
being specific, am I going to email Joe? Am I going to call Joe? Am I going to text Joe? Am I going to write a letter to Joe? Am I going to walk down the hall and knock on Joe's door? Those are physical things that I can do. They don't
Okay.
control the outcome, they control the action that you're taking. The
Okay.
action you're taking and the outcome are two separate things. And oftentimes, what I find is people are trying to make outcome their action.
Mm.
It's not the
Okay.
outcome. It's you can control the action you take. You can't always control the outcome.
Right.
So that using physical steps is real key. So we do have somebody else who joined us, so we
Sure.
can say hello to this person because I always enjoy seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say hello to Philip and Fishstick, the cute puppy. I love that puppy. He's so cute. I always enjoy seeing him. So glad that you joined us this evening. If you have a question, please put it in chat. We would love to hear your question, and one of us will definitely be able to answer your question. Probably
Sure.
not me, but one of us will be able to answer your question.
Yeah, we'll get it.
And while you're thinking about your questions, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. We're going to move on to tip 3. Tip 3 has to do with the context of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Context is the place, the tools, the
Mm-hmm.
people that you need to execute the task.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Where do you have to be? What do you need with you? Who do you need to be engaged with
Mm-hmm.
to execute this task? In your example, Walter, you talked about preparing your content for your short form. So that means, like you said, you needed your colors. Put
Mm-hmm.
that on your task or put it someplace where you know what your color numbers are, those hex code things. Um, you want to use certain types of images in your task, go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and grab that because that's context. You need to be at a certain computer. Make sure you're saying, I've got to be at a certain computer in the task so that you don't have to be thinking, okay, can I execute this now? You know, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
There, when I write things, I separate what I can do at my work computer versus what I can do on my personal computer.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some things that my work computer won't allow me to do. And there
Mm-hmm.
are some things that I have to use my work computer for because that's where the software is.
Okay.
So I'm very specific and I make those contexts in the task. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
work computer, personal computer, phone, iPad, kitchen, errand, those contexts, so that if when I'm looking at what task am I doing, I'm not looking at driving to the grocery store when I've got to do something in the house
Mm-hmm.
and frustrating myself
Mm-hmm.
because my brain is saying, "Oh, you keep looking at this thing that says you're driving to the grocery store,"
Mm-hmm.
or I'm trying to do research
Mm-hmm.
and I can't get to software on my work computer, but yet I got to be on my work computer, so I'm not frustrating myself.
Mm-hmm.
So a big one is context of where you, what, who, and where is really important when you're writing tasks and not losing track of those things.
So now I have a question for you. And
Mm-hmm.
when you were and when you were speaking in reference in terms of the color and fonts and brands, in terms of when you're working on a project or working on a thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
So this question would probably be is going to be for you, and then also for I believe there's a graphic designer who's watching us in the audience. Um,
No
the
pressure.
emotion,
No
no
pressure.
pressure, the emotional CEO. So this question is for the both of you. So when I normally look at creating my thumbnails, my mindset is the color of my thumbnails has to match the brand colors of my channel and what is pretty much displayed to my online audience online. So it's primarily a blue color. And that's what I kind of look for in making. But now if you ask me what's the code for the color and to save that color where I can constantly go back and reuse it in Canva, that I don't know. I just identify with the color itself. And so it raises a question to me. Thumbnails are important for you to get viewers to click on. So the lack of that knowledge of not knowing the actual codes of your color that make to make sure you're using the right color of blue, can that play a part in possibly for a content creator's thumbnail not to be clicked on because you don't have it detailed that far? So I asked that question to you and then the emotional
Yeah,
CEO.
I'm going to ask the emotional CEO to put some tips in chat, but I'll share with you what my experience is. I don't think that it will cause them not to click on it. I think what it can do is cause confusion as to who you are.
Okay.
Okay. Um, all of the colors that you're seeing on the screen, and this is true every every time you see me put something out,
Mm-hmm.
the colors are very deliberate. One of the first things I was made to do is figure out the colors that I liked, and
Mm-hmm.
then we figured out what the hex codes were, and we put them in a document. And so whenever I am doing work, I go get those. I just copy and paste the numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head. I just copy and paste them
Okay.
into whatever it is that I'm working on. Even like I did today, like I've done some opacity with this, but the background, the shading, the border, the every one of those colors are the exact colors in my color palette.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They don't always have to look because depending on the screen and whether you do opacity or not, or what you put behind it or put next to it, could give you a slightly different hue. I guess that's the right word. You can
Mm-hmm.
correct me in the chat, but you know fundamentally that the color is the color in your palette, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna. I don't remember, but I think it's something like 7 or 8 colors in my color palette.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so we just mix them up and use them. And it's okay occasionally to throw a different, like red is not one of the colors in my color palette, but I think there was a thumbnail that had a little bit of red in it. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
because if it makes sense, then you can do it. There's nothing to say that it has to be stuck and you never step outside of that.
Right. And the reason why I kind of asked that question from a content creation standpoint, every day we are using our mobile phones, and if we are individuals that are on YouTube, you're scrolling and you're seeing hundreds upon hundreds of videos either on your homepage or suggested, and what's going to be the key element on one of those videos being clicked on is because of the topic, the title, in the thumbnail. And so when in terms of your point here, I keep hearing the specifics of drilling down, but if you told me to identify the color in what I want to use just through visual looking at it, boom, that's the color I want. That's the color I want to kind of use with the blue and the red to fit with going with the thumbnail. But then when you look at in terms of how that video did, how many views you got, how many it was clicked on, I'm wondering, is the lack of specifics playing a part on it? Let's just see what the emotional CEO says about this.
So I'll take that and send it to you, but he outlined some of the reasons it's important to know though to know that information. And when I just so you know, Walter, when I am writing or doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things, right? Context. I need that information. So I just plop it, copy and paste it and plop it where I know I can get to it very quick. Cuz I don't know
Mm-hmm.
all them numbers. It's too many of
Mm-hmm.
them, but I
Right,
can
right,
copy and paste them.
right. Of course,
This is the
of course.
blue, this is yellow, this is the green, this is the whatever. Black and white is easy, but all them other colors,
Mm-hmm.
I just copy and paste the codes. And we figured out the codes because once you get the color that you want,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's easy to get the code. I didn't know it was as easy as it is, but it is very easy. But that's a part of the context of defining what you want to put together if you're writing out your task to get done,
Mm-hmm.
having that context available so you can just execute and you don't have to be looking and hunting and thinking and guessing.
Correct, correct. And then when and knowing that information, when I go through my process of creating my thumbnails, it sounds like by having those hex codes, it'll save a lot of more time in terms of the process of you know putting in the colors for the thumbnail
Right.
versus
And you can change
spending.
the pieces of it. That's what I'm
Correct.
learning to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get a template of something like today I tried to do one and I finally gave up because it was not the colors that were the problem, it's the other elements that were like this is not working, so just stop.
Okay.
Go back to your same simple formula work.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
one of the other things that has to do with routine with the colors has to do if you have routines like I put part of my morning routine here, and you'll
Mm-hmm.
notice that I've got those very things. I'm very specific. Make my bed, drink a glass of water, read my daily devotion, figure out the 3 most important tasks. Those are very specific.
Mm-hmm.
They're very action and they're physical things. I'm not saying drink all the water for the day. Drink a glass of water for
Mm-hmm.
the day, right? For the morning.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so there are things I do like create today's meeting note pages and other things, but these are routines. But notice here on this one that says review yesterday's calendar, I've got a
Mm-hmm.
link to the calendar right in the note. So all I got to do is click on the link. I don't have to move. This is Google. I don't have to go someplace else and open the calendar app and go to it. I just click on it right there in the task and it goes to it.
Okay.
That's a part of that context, knowing what you need is
Mm-hmm.
putting the resource that you need right at hand so that you can just execute,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not having it someplace you got to go find it.
Gotcha.
So hopefully you all are getting some, as we're chit chatting back and forth with each other. You're getting some value out of what we're sharing with you, and very real,
Mm-hmm.
because we all face these challenges. None of us are exempt. And if you think you
Mm-hmm.
are exempt, you are fooling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying,
Mm-hmm.
because we
And I
all
mean,
have them.
and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm the only content creator that kind of struggles with that lack of detail. I'd be interested to know what Dagan and Philip from Fish Stick have to, what insight they have in the creation of their thumbnails. Be interesting to kind of hear their feedback on it. Because at the end of the day, the goal is to be able to win the click. If we don't win the click, to get the viewer to watch the video, then as a result, now they move on to someone else, and they end up watching that video, and then they end up watching another video, and then that person gets the viewer duration and the watch time versus us getting it. So be interesting to hear their feedback on it.
Right. So if you are getting value and you have some feedback, please share it. And I want to say hi to Robert Lee, who is in the building with us today. Robert, you always have great questions, so I can't wait till you ask us a question. So I kind of mix 3 and 4 together, but 4 is determining your resources, whether it's software, whether it's a person, whether it's a phone number, whether it's a piece of information like a link. What are the resources you need to be able to execute the task? Grab those and put them with the task.
Okay.
What I find, and I do this almost naturally, it's become a habit for me. If I need a file, if I need a link, if I need, like I shared earlier, my colors, if I need something on my desk, I grab it all and put it together,
Mm-hmm.
so that when I go to execute, I get irritated when I have to stop and look. And to give you an example of how this plays out, I'm going to use my professional world. Oftentimes I'm in these video meetings, and
Mm-hmm.
somebody will say, well, we saw that file. Where is it? And I'll drop the link for you. And before they can say thank you, the link is in chat, because I've gathered in that note page that I made for the day.
Sure.
For that meeting, I put all the links that I could possibly think that I would need for that meeting in there. So it's a grab and go. It's a grab
Okay.
and go. If it's on my personal computer, the majority of the links that I use often are already in text snippets. So it's 2 or 3 letters and it's out the door. I don't have to really so determining what the resources are that you need in your planning process and writing your task and making those. Go back to the example that I showed with the inbox. I'm going to just hop there. I've got
Sure.
some notes down here, list of 3 people, but then the weekly team meeting, I've got a link there. I've asked myself some questions because I want to make sure, include a 5 minutes fun time in the agenda. I want to make sure I cover all of that and that I have it. The main thing I needed for this agenda was a link. So I made sure the link was right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're preparing to execute the task, so when you get to the task, you can just execute it. In David Allen's book, Getting Things Done, he talks about changing the light bulb.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared with you how me and somebody had this discussion about changing the light bulb, right? So you're going to
Right.
change
Right.
the light bulb. But what's stopping you from changing the light bulb is you don't have a light bulb.
Right.
But you write on your task list, change the light bulb. And that task annoys you for a week, and the
Mm-hmm.
only reason it's sitting there bugging the living daylights out of you is because you don't have the light bulb. So the first task was not change the light bulb. The first task was buy a light bulb when you go to the grocery store. Context. Or go to the hardware store. Context. Hardware store. What you're going to do, buy a light bulb. What resource you need. The size of the light bulb or wattage or whatever you need.
Okay. I see the value in what you're saying.
So now when you go to change the light bulb, you got the right light bulb with the right wattage. Now your task is get the ladder, get up on the ladder if you need it, and change the light bulb. Now I say get the ladder because I've got these cathedral ceilings in my kitchen, and I got to
Okay.
get on the ladder to change the light bulb in the kitchen.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But that context, all of it comes together, and those details is what allows us to execute quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any comments, or did this make sense or did not make sense?
It makes sense. It just makes me wonder in terms of one's upbringing, and like you said, in terms of when you need something, it's like, okay, I need to change the light bulb, and you just put it on a sticky note, and you just need to change light bulb. And I'm wondering, is your upbringing in terms of your learning process of how you do things, was has that just been passed on from, from generation to generation? Is it that, or because I've heard people say to me when I was preparing to get married, that they said, as men, we want, get straight to the point. Just tell me what I need to go into the store and get it. However, when it comes to a female, she not only knows what she needs, but she knows the details and what she needs to go from point A to point B. So is it that, or is it just something else that causes someone like myself? And again, I'm putting myself on the spot. So if someone else in the chat who is a content creator would have a different opinion, I would love to hear. But is it A or is it B? Because to me, if I need a light bulb, I'm just gonna put need light bulb. I'm not gonna put go to Home Depot. No, I'm not gonna put on my to do list. Go online, research what type of light bulb I need, because nowadays we have these new energy save light bulb. I'm just gonna put light bulb. I'm not gonna say go and research what type of light bulb. Um, Go to Home Depot, find out what I'm just gonna put. Go get light bulb. Your
And the
thoughts?
majority of people do exactly that. So many people do exactly that. And what ends up happening,
Mm-hmm.
they we don't get what we need when we need it.
Mm-hmm.
We sometimes end up making that trip 2 or 3 times because we got there and we didn't know exactly which model we
Mm-hmm.
needed. We got
Mm-hmm.
there, and because we hadn't, or we went by the Home Depot or the Lowe's or whatever 5 times and didn't get the light bulb because we didn't have our list broken up by things to do when I'm on an errand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I happen to be driving by there. I don't have an errand list that I can check before I leave the house. Is there anything that I can do while I'm already out? You know,
Mm-hmm.
gas and
Mm-hmm.
groceries are high right now. So
Mm-hmm.
if I can
This
do
is
it while
true.
I'm out there, I want to do it while I'm already out. I don't want to have to come home and go back and do all of that. And so we've got some folks. Uh, we got some folks who are agreeing with you, Walter, and Dagan is agreeing with you. Yep, to the point. That's me. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, getting to the point. But this, what I call pre-work, when you're
Mm-hmm.
writing out your task list, does
Mm-hmm.
get you to the point,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a whole lot, but it's a little bit of thinking
Mm-hmm.
ahead, just a little bit
Right.
before
And
you
I
go to do.
and I want to ask Dagon, because Dagon, you are a content creator. Do you take the approach in terms of when you go to create your thumbnails or go to prepare your live stream show? Do you kind of approach those processes of, I want to just go ahead and get it done, straight to the point, press record, do the video, or get in front of the camera, set the mic up, and go live? Are you taking the same approach in what we're talking about? Um, because I wonder sometimes, as we as content creators, if we're trying to grow our audience, if we're trying to get more views and grow our channel, that same approach that we would take in getting a light bulb. We know we need a light bulb, but what type of wattage of light bulb we need? You understand? Is it an energy saver type light bulb, or just a traditional regular light bulb? Do you take that same approach when you're creating and doing your live streams, or doing upload videos? I would love to get your feedback and any other content creators that are in the chat, because again, YouTube is very competitive depending on what niche I believe, Dagan, you do content that's geared towards and helping men to be able to maintain and to keep their beards presentable, and to look in such a way where when they walk down the street, if they're not married, a nice young one or two women are gonna go, ooh, that looks good on him. Your thoughts, man?
I'm gonna stay away from that because I could get in all kind of trouble. We're gonna keep it moving. We do have some great comments in the.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a person who's going to be doing a July 1st launch on a YouTube channel. They've got a small bank of videos
Mm-hmm.
that they're working on and a list of subjects. So awesome. Congratulations, Philip. Make sure you tell us so that we can be
Yes.
there to support you. If
Mm-hmm.
anything changes, what time, all the details, make sure the community knows it so we can be there to support you. And Dagan says, let me get to the right thing here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a problem because I can't see all of a sudden.
Okay.
Oh, okay, here it is.
Okay.
Dagan says, no, I don't plan my live streams other than changing my wood. You rather questions, but my lives are just a hangout.
Okay. Gotcha.
So awesome.
Okay.
And Philip says, I appreciate this discussion because it causes me to realize the importance of concrete steps to your goal. Awesome. So glad you're
Mm-hmm.
getting value
Good.
out of it, Philip. And
Good.
thank you for sharing that feedback with us. And Robert
Mm-hmm.
says this to us, Walter. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool example. I'd probably need another task list of preventive measures to stay focused and not get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that whole
Mm-hmm.
distraction thing. And it does help you. If you follow this process, if you follow these steps, it does help you to stop getting distracted. So
Mm-hmm.
awesome. That's a great call out. So our fifth tip is use action verbs in your task.
Okay.
I shared the example of just putting groceries on the list versus putting research or write or edit or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Real big tip is every task that you write started with the action verb. That goes back to that second step of concrete physical steps. Verbs
Okay.
make it active. You know exactly what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to, it removes making any decisions when you go to execute because you've made the decision, you've written the decision, you've written it in a way that when you're tired and you don't feel well, you
Mm-hmm.
can look at it and it knows, you know exactly what to do. Any thoughts about that?
Okay. So let's go back to the short form video. So one of the obstacles and the challenges that I know I have to address is getting the videos edited properly, so that way it will maximize my opportunity in getting an individual to watch the video to the duration.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going back to your example, you can either say, I need a light bulb, or here's the steps to getting. And so my step is, okay, I need to find an editor. And so I'm just
That's a
kind of
goal.
writing. That's the goal. And then the next step for me then is, how am I going to get it edited? Am I going to try to do it myself by trying to use iMovie? Or am I going to try to find someone to get it? Now, that's all I'm writing down. I didn't write going further in what's my budget, which is important. If I do to outsource it, it's important to know, what do I even have a budget for it? And if I don't have the budget, how much time can I commit to the editing process so I can meet the goal in getting those 4 videos done, so one is uploaded each week?
So I'm gonna challenge you with something.
Oh Lord.
In all of that,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps one of your action items, next physical things is brainstorm a list of options.
Okay.
You're not going to execute on any of them, but you're just going to brainstorm. Make as many different, as wacky, way out as you can think of. Don't cause any limits on yourself. So your action is take 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, and I want to brainstorm how my options for getting these videos edited.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious ones are edit yourself,
Mm-hmm.
hire an editor. Those are the obvious ones. Are there others that you haven't thought about, though?
This is true.
Right? Maybe you can barter with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a tool that you can use that'll make the process easier.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there is a class that you can take that would make it easier. I'm talking to myself, y'all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But not cutting off. Your task is to just do the brainstorming and, writing the brainstorm list out. That's the action. It's not making a decision today. It's just getting enough of a list out that you have something to work with and to consider.
Okay.
You already know what your goal is.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're working your way through the various steps to get you to reach that goal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Does this make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense, talk to me because I want it to make sense to you.
Oh, it definitely makes sense to me. It definitely, because again, if you ask me what my takeaway tonight is, definitely don't fall into the trap of just saying I write it on a piece of paper, need to buy a light bulb. Because the equivalent to that in me in content creation is I need to get these videos edited. But turning to sit down and doing brainstorming never crossed my mind, because the only two options that I know of that I have available to me that I know of in this moment is either do them myself by watching a ton of YouTube videos on iMovie, so that way I can be able to properly edit the video, put in the right amount of transitions, find out what resource I can get for B-roll to add into those videos. But never once did it go, do some brainstorming on it first.
Yeah. So, gang, we've covered 5 big tips. I'm going to share one other and I think I have this with 2 people. So, Walter, I'm going to apologize to you now. If you disappear off the screen, it's because
No,
did
it's
this
fine.
at the last
It's
minute.
fine.
But this is one which is really kind of geared toward part of your topic. And I wrote this up as an example of me producing my Winning Wednesday post.
Mm-hmm.
And every month I have these posts that I do. I call them Winning Wednesday. So one task is research. Think about the 5 tips I've shared. So research 5 quotes about task management.
Mm-hmm.
Specific, found, I know how many, and I'm going to do research. I'm not saying pick the one I'm going to use. I'm saying just research. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Decide on the look and feel for this week's post. Within my color palette that we talked about, what is the feeling that I want my audience, the person who reads this post, to get? Do I want it to be happy? Do I want it to be sad? Do I want it to be serious? Do I want it to cause them to think? Do I want it to cause them to ask themselves questions? Do I want to ask questions?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I write all that out, and then I make a decision and make a call on what I want that to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Then write the captions. I ain't made a graphic yet. Just write the captions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, you see, the next one is editor. It's not specific. If I looked at this, I would be like, okay, what did I mean by that? Am I hiring an editor? Am I kicking the editor out? What am I doing?
Right.
right? So, because I haven't gotten specific enough. Then I kind of skipped over some stuff, but then one of my steps is schedule a post in social media, in my social media tool, and I have it due by Tuesday at 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I put it right in the task,
Okay.
right? And then later on, read comments that I received on the post, and I put a link to where I'm going to go to read, because I post this on LinkedIn. So I put a link
Mm-hmm.
to my LinkedIn thing. Because I'm not always on my phone in LinkedIn. I may be on a computer, I may be on an iPad. I don't want to have to think about it. So when
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting to the point where it's to go through these comments, click the link, and there I go. And
Okay.
then respond to the post. So all of these, except for that editor one, which is the one that sticks out now that you notice it, very
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
specific. I know when, I know what tool I need. There is no decision making for me to make regarding that specific task.
Okay.
All of it together ends up me producing the weekly Winning Wednesday post.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal.
Right.
But it's breaking those down in small steps, and they just repeat, repeat, repeat.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to really think through. These are examples. I actually literally have a checklist that goes through this process for
Mm-hmm.
me for
Mm-hmm.
every week. But I wanted to have some examples of something that was realistic, and how I just took it out of my system and put it in a Google task. That's all I
Mm-hmm.
did, because
Okay.
y'all know I use a different system. But that's and it's in my on my Winning Wednesday list.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm looking at this, I'm not thinking about the house, the laundry, the anything.
Right.
Context, specificity, knowing what the goal is, using action verbs with one exception. Everything on there is an action verb.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Research, decide, write, schedule, read, respond. So if anybody has questions, feel free to put your
Mm-hmm.
questions in as we come on. Mr. Strong, any
Mm-hmm.
thoughts about what we've shared? Because these were our 5 tips.
This was good. This was good. It brought a lot of clarity in terms of the process and what I'm currently working on. Um, to though I already have a Google Doc and have everything kind of writing out in steps, but taking this video, playing the replay of it, I would encourage every person. When I speak about content more from a video standpoint, but content can be a newsletter, content can be a blog post, content can be um, a social media post, whatever your way of your creating content. I would encourage you to watch the replay of this video and on the other screen or other device, put your Google Doc or Evernote, and then just kind of follow these steps to say, how can I drill down on this and make this more efficient? So it's definitely going to be my homework and my takeaway versus, again, me and Dagan just putting need to buy light bulb.
Oh, we've got some great feedback from folks in the
Mm-hmm.
building. So first of all, I have not done this, but
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to recognize this gentleman. This is his first time here in the building with us. Tall boy, so glad that you made it out, and I know you're traveling international, so I appreciate the sacrifice that you're making to
Mm-hmm.
be here with us. So awesome. And then Philip, Philip, you're wonderful. The best thing I think I have done is to start with content. Once I determine my subject, and more important, what to exclude at this time, because he was all over the place.
Okay.
That will help you not be all over the place. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, thank you so much. You said you don't have any questions, but you're sharing your reaction that the videos have helped you. Thank you. That's what I want to do, and I will tell you that so many other content creators, that's how I've learned so much. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely want to, and I'm just going to share this because I just think it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Dagan just gave us a thumbs up.
All right now.
Thank you for the thumbs
Yeah.
up.
All
Thank you
right.
so much. You guys are awesome. And so I'm going to summarize very quickly what we've talked about to make sure. And again, Walter, if you go off screen, it's because I didn't fix the
It's
scene.
okay. It's
So
okay.
to summarize, we talked about 5 tips. Number one, start with having a clear objective of what you want to accomplish. And it doesn't have to be huge. It can be for a day, a week, a month, a year, but start with a clear objective. Number two, be very specific in physical actions, physical steps that you can take. Don't try to write your task as an outcome. Write the task as something that you can control, which is something you can do. The outcome you don't control, the action you do control. Pay attention to the context. What do you need? Where do you need to be? Who do you need with you? Those are great things to pay attention to. Put that information in the task, either in the notes or in the task name. Both will work, but don't lose sight of it so that you're not having to make decisions over and over again. Pay attention to the resources do you need. And we talked about tonight, color palettes, graphics, light bulbs, whatever the thing is you need, a resource could be another person. In my case, I talked about I've got these cathedral ceilings. Well, for me to get up on a 6-foot ladder and then have to reach, it only took me falling down one time on a hardwood floor in my kitchen to say, never get up on the ladder in the house by yourself again. Have another person here when you do that. Because if I'd hit my head on the counter or something, there would have been nobody here to help me. And then use action verbs. Action verbs, action verbs, action verbs. Make your tasks actionable, not just an idea, one word, editor. That doesn't tell you what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm on this journey here, and Walter made a comment, and I'm going to share this with you. But I've created a new tool for you. If you go to my Buy Me a Coffee page or click right there on that, or point your phone or iPad at that QR code, you can get this resource. And I've broken out a list of task action verbs into a simple document for you that are big, like at the project level, like maybe at a month level, medium at a week level, focused on that, and then very specific, concrete that maybe you want to look at on a daily basis, because action verbs can be project oriented, and so you have to know the difference between, am I creating a project, a little miniature project, or am I actually writing a specific task that I can take action on right now without needing anything else. And that's the key. These things will stop you from decision fatigue. We all suffer from it. I'm going to bring Walter back. I went the wrong way. Walter back. It stops decision fatigue, and it also helps you with momentum. You get going, and you can keep going. Success breeds success. Winning breeds winning. The more you can win and have success, the more you will be motivated to continue on with that. And so, Walter, I like having my guests have last words. So, sir, what you got?
Amen. Amen. But as they say in the church, let the church
Coach,
say amen.
Amen.
Amen simply means so be it. There's nothing else. Last words to put this. This was a master class that you basically, allow myself and your audience to be a part of. That definitely will help any new beginning content creator or existing content creator who is definitely trying to grow their channel and to be able to meet certain YouTube monetization goals. And it's just a matter of for me, when I get a good piece of content, and I know I said amen, when I get a good piece of content like this, I'll keep going back to it as a reference tool until it's ingrained in me and it's a part of my content creation process. So this was excellent.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you making yourself available. Well, gang, we're going to get out of here and let you get back to the rest of your Friday night. Thank you guys for joining us. Walter, if you can hang out in the green room for a second. And so, of course, did it wrong. We're going to have a video up here. Thank you guys. Good night, everybody. See you next Friday.